Most B2B lead generation advice out there feels like reheated leftovers. There's the same cold emails, same generic ads, same just post one more time strategy. Now last year, using these exact 12 strategies, we 3x'd our own lead intake as well as our revenue. But here's what mattered more. Those leads weren't cold, flaky leads. They were booked calls. And in this video, I am going to give you the exact 12 lead generation strategies we have tested, refined, and now use daily across dozens of accounts. And just in case you don't know who I am John, the founder of a company called MinMax Media, and it is my mission to create the most simple, effective, and efficient client acquisition system possible. There is a link below if you want to see how that system works. Most people are scared of YouTube because they think it's too slow, too hard, or too competitive. But our single highest performing lead source above all ads and cold outreach started with a YouTube video I filmed in my flat with a £50 mic and zero lighting. I started uploading videos when we launched the business with no audience, no budget. It was just me awkwardly talking to a cheap camera. But within 6 months, those videos were generating more leads than our outbound efforts. And it wasn't just views, it was actual booked calls from people who showed up saying, "Your videos are better than every agency I've spoken to." And I wasn't doing anything clever. I was just explaining the thing no one else was saying out loud. Now, the reason this works as a strategy so well in B2B is because, frankly, most people really suck at YouTube, especially in niche markets. They make really boring content or over-edited fluff or thinly veiled pitches. But if you're in a really tight niche and you actually teach something useful, people find you and they'll start to trust you, and as a result they'll start to want to work with you. Now I'd recommend focusing on search-based terms. So think beginner guides, quick setup walkthroughs. For example, if you're an AI agency, do a video, how to build a custom GPT agent, not why AI is the future, because they attract different audiences. Specificity, got it, nailed it, beats inspiration every time. But here's where it gets interesting. Those videos are just the front door. At the end of each one, we direct them to a single core video or a flagship. This is something that explains exactly how our service works. So now every search-based video acts like a feeder. So it doesn't matter where they start, they all end up in the same place. And that place sells your offer whilst, very importantly, still giving value. The key here, just to make sure you grasp it, is actually say something. Don't hold back on value. People can smell when you're just sort of teasing insights so they can book a call. That's why when people do book a call, once they've seen that value, they come in sold. But here's the truth, organic traffic from somewhere like YouTube can build slowly, and trust alone doesn't close deals. You need to follow up with them after they've watched, and that's where most businesses lose all their leverage. What we did next halved our lead cost, and it was genuinely the biggest tipping point I've hit in the last 3 years for my business. Now, we were running ads and traffic was coming in, leads were booking calls, and yet close rates were kind of flat. Then we added one piece, and almost overnight, everything clicked. Same traffic, same ads, but now our campaigns were doing 10x return on ad spend, and it wasn't some genius tweak, it was just putting the right message in front of the right people again. So here's the truth, most people don't buy the first time they see you, especially in B2B. But most companies treat ad campaigns like a one-night stand. So if someone doesn't convert right away, they just sort of move on. Now what we did was stupidly simple. We dropped a meta pixel and a LinkedIn insight tag across all traffic points, our website, funnels, lead magnets, and videos. Now, anyone who touched our brand got bucketed on those platforms as audiences. Then we fed those buckets specific content that answered buying questions. This is where 99% of people screw it up. They run ads that say the same thing again and again. So if they do this remarketing piece, they'll just repeat the same ad. And don't get me wrong, it's better than doing nothing. But instead, we built a remarketing stack. And this uses principles from a book called Breakthrough Advertising. Now, each advert answers a different stage of buyer hesitation. So for example, one shows how your service works. Another shows the result of using your service. One compares your process to other processes. Another shows what happens if you do nothing, i.e. if you don't buy the service. One just uses a bit of humor to disarm people. But all of these together, they build trust passively and automatically, and trust is like the secret ingredient, especially in B2B, that closes deals. And bonus news, it's ridiculously cheap. Like, why are we not already running this cheap? We've had remarketing ads that cost less than $5 a day, attributes closing well over $10,000 clients. But all the trust in the world doesn't matter if the lead ghosts before the call happens, and that's where we find there's a real leak going on. Thankfully, this third strategy again costs literally nothing and plugs that leak very quickly. Now remember, you booked that call and then you totally forgot about it until your calendar pings. Well, I mean, your lead does that too. And that thing right there is killing your close rate. Now we had this period where we were getting loads of calls booked and it looked great on paper, but half the time people just didn't show up. Or worse, they showed up completely with no clue who we were or what we did. One guy literally asked, I can't remember why, what was this call about again? And after that, we rewired the whole system. And as a result of that, our show rates jumped to 90%. And now, with a few extra tweaks, they're at 95%. Now, most people think booking the call is the win, but it's not. Booking the call is the moment of peak interest for your prospect, and it's all downhill from there. So your job is to build a bridge from the moment they book the call to the moment they actually show up to the call ready to buy. Here's how we do it. As soon as a call gets booked, a pre-built sequence fires, not just a hey, thanks email. We hit them at 3 key points. When they book a call, 48 hours out from their call, and 3 hours before the call. And that goes out via email, SMS, and if we got them on LinkedIn, a DM. And yeah, that DM should be manual, although you can set a task for someone to do it. Takes 30 seconds, but trust me, very, very worth it. But here's where it gets interesting. We don't just remind them of the call, we also sell the call. So every reminder links to a short video, and that video is a perfectly scripted explanation of our service. What it does, why it works, what it costs, all the questions they normally ask on the call itself, answered before we even speak to them. So by the time they show up, they should ideally already be sold. There's no dance, no pitch, it's just, is this the right fit? And this does two things. One, it filters out the time wasters, and two, it gives your closer a layup instead of a cold start. And good news, you can build this in an afternoon. In fact, I challenge you can do it in an hour, realistically, an hour. Good news is you can also double down on this with yet another strategy that costs nothing. And I bet you didn't know this would be 12 strategies that don't cost you anything. Honestly, I'm too good to you, too good. Now, we used to show up to sales calls feeling like we were sort of starting from scratch every time. And now they show up pitching us because they've already watched the sales pitch the night before. When I added a pre-call video sales letter to our funnel, everything changed. Close rates jumped, call lengths dropped, and the tone of the conversation shifted completely. Calls just basically started to feel a lot more casual. And this is the part no one adds, even the big companies we work with. So what you do is right after someone books a call, i.e. use a scheduler, instead of just letting them disappear into the ether, you need to drop them onto a video, and this will be part of your funnel essentially. And that video needs to explain everything. What your service is, how it works, why it works, and most importantly, proof it actually delivers. Now this is slightly different to the details video I mentioned in the point before. The details video is very logical. This video is a bit more emotional. It's about the outcomes of what they could get. It's about sort of digging into the pain first off, etc. Think of it like this. Your sales call shouldn't be the first time they hear your pitch. And it's not just about ticking boxes, it's about compounding touch points. There's something called the 7-hour rule. People need around 7 hours of exposure to feel safe buying. But here's the trick. If you hit them from different angles, so emails, video, social, case studies, it compresses that timeline. It feels like they've known you for a lot longer than they actually have. And this pre-call VSL becomes one of those hits because it's a high impact one, because it's your best pitch delivered perfectly every time. There's no mood swings, there's no missed details, and there's no winging it. Oh, and if you're finding this useful, I said it was my mission to make the most simple, efficient, and effective client acquisition system possible. Well, I have made that system, it's my life's work. It's called the Controlled Growth Framework, and you can see an overview of the full system below, or If you want us to work with you to help you get it installed, we can do that too. Again, links below. Now, you would be forgiven for thinking outbound is dead. And most outbound messages are the digital equivalent of walking up to a girl you like in a bar and asking her to come home with you. It just doesn't work. Now, we used to send the typical stuff. Hey, we're an agency. Here's a list of things we do. Do you want to chat? Do you want to discuss synergies? Unsurprisingly, absolute crickets. Then we switched the approach with a simple message. Hey, I had a quick look at your site, found 3 things that might help you get more leads. Do you want me to send over a quick report? That one message, more replies in a week than the last 3 months of the other approach combined. The difference is this: instead of asking or taking, you're giving. You're not begging for time, you're offering something valuable for free. It doesn't matter if it's an email or LinkedIn, it works the same way principally. Lead with a real observation and then offer something specific. I noticed X, I made Y for you. Do you want me to send it? That's it. Just keep it short, honest, and casual. And no one else does this, and that's why it works. And here's what makes it even easier. Your message should look boring. No fancy formatting, no using the word synergy. No. No branding, just send it from Gmail as plain text. Send it as something an actual person would really write, because guess what? People ignore marketing, but they do reply to humans. And one rule, if you are doing any sort of outreach, stop after 3 messages. If they haven't responded by that, they're very, very low chance they're going to, and your response rate falls off a cliff after that 3rd attempt. So keep it light, keep it short, and move on. The volume you'll get from sending less messages will allow you to get to more people, and that will save you. Now, outbound works, but only if it feels like a favor, not a pitch. And this is a solid foundation lead gen strategy. But this next one I'm going to talk through is so easy to scale. Now, the only reason we had to pause LinkedIn ads, this is genuine, was because they work too well. We literally ran out of capacity to take on new clients, and this has happened to us, I lost count, at least 5 or 6 times. So we cracked LinkedIn ads quite early on. In fact, one campaign about 3 or 4 years ago brought in so many qualified leads, we had to switch it off while we scrambled to deliver. Not cold traffic, not tire kickers, it was proper high intent decision makers booking in back to back. And if you want quality over quantity and you want full control over who sees your offer, LinkedIn is the only ad platform that lets you laser target like this. If you want CEOs at companies of 100 to 250 in fintech based in the UK, done. You can't dial it in like that on Meta, and good luck on getting that kind of precision on Google PPC. And yeah, don't get me wrong, the CPMs are higher, but the leads are better, way better. We've run campaigns where the cost per lead was 3 times higher on LinkedIn than Meta, but the cost per closed deal was actually lower on LinkedIn just because those leads were better quality. Now, it's not plug and play. You do need to tweak your way into a working campaign, and that's when most people give up. They run 2 ads, they get no results, and they blame the platform and just say it doesn't work. But if you're willing to test 5 angles and a couple of offers, it does work. And the great thing about this is it works at scale. Now, we've got full walkthroughs on how to set up and run LinkedIn ads. So I'd suggest checking out either our LinkedIn Ads Ultimate Guide or our Beginner's LinkedIn Ads Guide, which you can see both of those on the channel. But if you're serious about B2B acquisition, LinkedIn ads are one of the highest leverage levers you can pull. Now, most people would hear Facebook ads and they'd immediately think the opposite. They'd think cheap traffic, low quality, and they think B2C. But one of our top performing B2B clients of all time uses it as their only channel, and it absolutely crushes. Here's the truth with Facebook. It is stupidly powerful, but only if you train it properly. The ad system runs on a machine learning basis. It's basically a bloodhound, but if you feed it junk, it will chase junk. So 2 things we did that we found work really well. First, we use lead forms, but we use them with conditional logic. That means if someone clicks the ad and they aren't qualified, like they don't have the budget or they're not in the right industry, they cannot submit the form. It just blocks them out. Second, we ran landing page funnels where we only triggered sending conversion events back to Meta if someone passed a qualification survey. If they flunk the questions, like if they answer questions in the survey and they're not qualified, that event doesn't get sent back to Facebook. Facebook never sees that lead. Now, what happens if you do this is all the data going back into Meta is clean, and it's all your ideal buyer. And because the algorithm learns from what you send it, it starts finding more people like that. That's how the machine learning algorithm works. And this becomes a compounding feedback loop of improvement. So still the bloodhound analogy, but this time you're giving them prime beef and they're hunting down your ideal client instead. There's one catch to this. You've got to nail the messaging. Facebook has way more noise than LinkedIn, so your copy and creative have to be really tight. But if you get that right and your back end is filtering for quality, like I just explained, you can scale B2B on Facebook way better than most people think is possible. Now, selling to cold prospects, I'll be honest, it's really, really hard. But do you know what's easier? Letting someone else sell your offer to people who already trust them. Now, we work with a client who was offering this really niche technical SaaS solution, and direct outreach was slow, lots of explaining, lots of convincing. Even their ads were proving a little bit difficult. So what we did is we flipped the approach. Instead of targeting like end user companies, we started targeting suppliers. In this instance, more specifically, we started targeting IT service companies. And within weeks, they had deals landing through these IT service company partners who were pitching their solution for them because it was a value add to the IT suppliers' clients and it made them money too. Hopefully that all makes sense. This is called joint venture selling. So instead of going straight to the end user, you go one level up. You pitch to someone who already owns your target audience. So let's say you sell analytics dashboards. Instead of selling to every SaaS company individually, you go to a growth consultancy that serves 10 or 100 SaaS companies and you offer them your solution as something they can white label or bundle. Now they win because they have more value to add, their clients win, and you never had to cold pitch a single founder. And the best part, you're not selling a product, you're offering a revenue stream. You're helping someone else look smarter to their clients, and as a result, that's way less friction. Best way to do this is usually with a combo of LinkedIn DMs, email outreach, and sometimes LinkedIn conversation ads. The message is stupidly simple. Hey, we've got a product that does X. It could help your clients make more money or solve Y problem. Do you want to partner up? That's kind of it, or a variation of that. No fluff. It won't work for every business, but if you've got a solution that can plug into someone else's offer, it's one of the fastest ways to scale. But partnerships can take some time to build. So if you want something faster, something that reactivates leads right now, the next play is what we use to generate calls on autopilot from people who already know who you are. Now, every time we start with a new client, the first thing we do is this. Not ads, not content, not tech, just one email campaign to their old list, and it always works. We ran this for one agency. They hadn't spoken to their list in months. One offer, 3 emails, 9 book calls in 7 days, and they closed £30,000 worth in new business with, might I add, no ad spend and no funnel rebuild. This is what we call a reactivator. It's stupidly effective. It costs nothing, and almost no one runs it, and I don't know why. So here's how it works. You go to your old leads, your existing network, people who've been in contact before but didn't buy, and you offer them something with real scarcity and urgency. So limited spots, limited time. We're offering 5 seats for offer X and it closes Friday. That is it. But, and this is really, really key, you don't pitch the people you're contacting. You ask if they know anyone else that would be interested. Hey, we're running this offer, only a few spots. Is there anyone in your network that might find that useful? That really subtle shift changes the whole dynamic because it doesn't feel salesy. It feels like a favor, and weirdly, it gets them thinking about themselves anyway. Now you can run this via email or just DM people, doesn't matter. What matters is you frame it like a window that's about to close. Scarcity plus urgency makes people act. And we recommend doing this once a quarter. Personally, we do it once a year, and every single time it prints money. Do you want to know the fastest way to get enterprise buyers to actually pay attention? Show them someone like them who is currently winning. Webinars can be really, really hit or miss, but when they hit hard, especially if you're selling something complex to companies with lots of red tape. Now here's the key, the topic makes or breaks it. If your headline is just our growth framework, no one shows up. But if it's how X company saved 5 million with new unique delivery mechanism, whatever that is, people will start to lean in. You want to lead with the outcome and the company name. Borrow that company's credibility, and if you can't get a big brand, that's fine. Use niche success stories with a punchy result. Then you want to structure the webinar like a case study with usable advice. Walk through what happened, how they did it, what the result was, and how the viewer can do something similar. That mix of proof plus plus practicality is what gets them on the call after. And the best way to drive signups we found is with LinkedIn lead form ads. They convert higher and keep it all native, but the real goal is in the follow-up. Everyone forgets this. After the webinar ends, most companies just stop talking, but instead you want to follow up really hard with those people, send the replay, share the bonus material, push for the call, because that's where the ROI comes from. Now, why would you spend years building an audience when you can just rent someone else's? Micro influencer campaigns are everywhere in B2C. It's so common, but in B2B, they are criminally underused, which makes it a massive opportunity. So here's how it works. You find someone already making content that overlaps with your audience. Doesn't have to be huge. In fact, it's better if they're kind of not big influencers. You want creators with a niche, loyal following, especially on platforms like YouTube or LinkedIn. Then you reach out and say, hey, I've got a solution your audience might actually want. Would you fancy a collab or a sponsorship? If they're interested, you either brief them to talk about it or you pay them to review it, demo it, or show how they would use it. What you're buying isn't just the content, you're buying trust. These creators already have attention, they already have influence, and when they talk about you, their audience transfers that trust onto your solution. You're basically piggybacking their platform without having to build your own. So there's no long-term grind, no brand building from scratch. You just drop into their world, run your campaign and move on. It's not free, but it's way cheaper than most people think. And in B2B, it can feel like cheating because so few people are actually doing this right now. Here's the thing, tactics alone, they won't scale you, not sustainably and predictably at least. What actually drives consistent growth is how these tactics, they all connect, the order they happen in, the message they carry, and the system that lays underneath it all. And that's where most people stall. They pick random plays off the shelf, they run them in isolation, and then they wonder why nothing really sticks for a long time. So in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the full system we use to turn these strategies into a controlled, compounding acquisition engine, the same framework that's helped us scale client pipelines without burning teams or ad budget. This framework is my mission, and it's called the Controlled Growth Framework. So if you're serious about growth, this is where you go next. I'll make everything you've learned work even harder and convert better. Watch it there. I'll see you over there.